It doesn't matter how long you've been involved in property, there are always lessons to learn. That's one of the best bits of being involved in real estate, in my opinion. I'm always learning from the property markets because they're so dynamic and you never quite solve the puzzle because it just seems to get reshuffled in front of you right when you think you've got it solved. So what are the lessons we can learn from 2016 that we can take into 2017? The first one is property is a game of finance, and many investors found this out last year as the banks increased their serviceability criteria. APRA instigated measures to slow down lending to investors due to concerns about the high proportion of investors in the market, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne. And the trend's already continuing this year, and there are signs from the Reserve Bank to suggest that interest rates are going to remain unchanged and that the cycle of easing has come to an end. However, what's again happening this year is that the banks are independently increasing interest rates, especially to property investors. The second lesson is our property markets are fragmented. Across Australia, they were very much that way last year and they're going to be that way this year. The Sydney market's defying constant predictions of a looming correction and is continuing to record strong growth. Likewise, Melbourne markets posting regular increases. The strength of both these markets are underpinned by their strong economics, which are creating jobs and population growth. Conversely, Perth and Darwin's markets are struggling due to the downturn, while Brisbane holds promise but has yet to truly deliver. The third lesson is no one really knows what's happening to our property markets. The evidence is overwhelming that no matter how much we think we know less, especially despite being armed with all those reports. Last year's forecasts, even from the best of experts, tended to be wrong. Some on the upside, some on the downside. There's no clearer indication of this than all the predictions that the Sydney market was going to end, and look what's happened. If our property market's taught us anything over the last few years, it's to expect the unexpected. Of course, I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I think it's going to be in the realm of finance. We've already seen big lenders pull out of lending to property investors and others pushing up interest rates to investors. In the past, it's always been finance that's brought us to the end of property cycles, either through rising interest rates or through a credit squeeze. The next lesson I'd like to remind you of is that the government doesn't really want to tinker with negative gearing, despite all the talk that's happening, especially now that the budget is looming. Unfortunately, some people believe that the Sydney market, and to a lesser extent Melbourne, is growing so strongly because of negatively geared properties. But that's not true. Negative gearing's always been a political football, and with about 1.2 million ordinary Australians being investors using this tax, it's going to be a really unpopular decision to exit. The next lesson is that Doomsayers are going to be out again this year. In fact, for as long as I remember, there have been people predicting, explaining why the property markets are going to stop rising and in fact crash. However, in that time, well-located investment-grade properties have doubled in value every 10 years or so. The problem is fear is a very powerful emotion, and it's one that the media regularly uses to grab our attention. Sadly, some people miss out on the opportunity to develop their own financial independence because they listen to the messages of those who want to deflate the financial dreams of their fellow Australians. I've never really understood the motivation behind that, except perhaps jealousy. But when 70% of Australians own their own home, if the market sky really was going to fall, as many predict, the economic impact of that to the vast majority of people would be devastating. That's not a good thing. The next lesson is strategic investors are going to be ahead of the pack because they're going to make their decisions based on strategy, not emotion. Now that may be boring, but it's safe. Many investors without a system are going to find themselves in financial trouble as the market turns. Remember, Warren Buffett said, you only find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. In other words, if you aren't following a system, one that works in all market conditions, you're going to get caught naked when the market changes. If you prefer to have consistent profits and reduced risk, then follow a proven system. Make your investment boring so the rest of your life's exciting. The last lesson I'd like to share is some property investors are going to miss out again. The fear of missing out is currently driving some investors to speculate rather than invest wisely. Now I understand why they want to have their share of profits through property as well, but sometimes the right thing for beginning investors to do is nothing. In fact, I've made more money by saying no to all those perceived investment opportunities than by saying yes to them. But many beginning investors are now taking emotional decisions And that's why I'm calling it speculation. So just like last year, those who chase the next hotspot or invest in off-the-plan properties or buy new homes in housing estates or purchase secondary properties, they're likely to miss out. So what all this boils down to is that the markets in 2017 are going to be different to 2016, but in some ways they're going to remain the same. APRA are going to tighten the financial screws, and some people are going to have difficulty getting finance. Others who speculate are going to get caught out compared to those who follow a sound strategy. A wiser move, no matter what the market conditions, is to only buy investment-grade properties in locations that are likely to achieve above-average capital growth. Successful property investment shouldn't be games of highs and lows, but rather a boring state of affairs that quietly, slowly creates wealth for you over the years. If you'd like some assistance in formulating a property strategy or seeing how your current portfolio is performing, why not have a chat with the team at Metropole? We've won multiple awards because we've been able to help our clients create significant wealth. Why not click on the website at metropole.com.au and organise a time to have a chat.